Morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Podzibbers, the official Facebook page of Podzibbers. And today we are here for episode 2 of our data visualizations with Python playlist. And if you remember in the last episode, which was our first episode, we had seen how to import from FBref into the Jupyter notebook. Today what we are going to be doing is we are going to plot that data in a scatter plot, which is the simplest kind of plot that we look at. So a scatter plot is a basic one. We all have seen scatter plots. It's just two axes, x-axis and y-axis, and whatever two datas we are looking at, we plot them in the chart in form of dots, or if you want, you can make them squares or stars, because Python has that functionality to make it squares or stars or whatever you want it to be. So we'll pick it up where we left off last time, and we had left off last time like here, like we are left off at the log function. So what we are going to be doing this time is, since we are trying to plot a scatter plot, just to bring it back to you, whatever database we had, we're just going to look at it again. We will just say df.columns first, and rather we will say list out df.columns, so that we can look at what all data is available to us, and out of these what data can we look at putting a plot on. And just like last time, I would be referring to my previous works. I would be referring to the internet as well because I clearly don't remember any of this. It's just a basis that I remember. Okay, so here's our data. RK is not relevant to us, player is relevant to us. Then what is the data that we can plot? We have short creating actions, and we have live passes. Pass live is short creating actions from live passes. Then we also have goal creating actions, and we have short creating actions from dribbles and from fouls drawn, things like this. So we need two data sets to plot in an axis. So since we have taken last time a really simple table from FBref, you can take a different table in which there are data sets that have data available according to what you want to plot. Since in the first tutorial we went with this database in pandas, we will just go with this one. So let's just say we can plot short creating actions on one axis, and let's go with goal creating actions on the other, or perhaps we can go with live passes as well. If we go with live passes, the thing is we would be able to differentiate between who creates more from live passes and who depends on set pieces to create more. So let's do this one. Let's take short creating actions and short creating actions from live passes. So in order to do this, the method that I follow is a little different. You might be scatter plotting is possible directly from the database as well without doing what I do, but this is what I like to do. I would just create a list and I would just name it SCA. I will just create a list, and this one, in this list, let us say this is a list of our data frame's name was df, so let's just keep it there, and you start these braces, and inside these you specify the name of the column which you want as a list. So we want short creating actions into SCA. What this command will do is, let's just do the second one as well, and the second one I will just say is live. Live is list, and then df, inside the braces we will go pass live. I hope pass live does mean that it is short creating actions from live passes. When I run this list, what will happen is, okay, I will just show you the data frame once more. Let's go for df.head. And what is going to happen is all these values that are in the list right now, all these values will be, sorry, they are in the data frame right now. All of these values that is under the short creating actions column in the data frame, they will all be saved into a list. How it looks like, I will show you that in a minute. Before that, let's just get the player name as well. Why do we need to get the player name? For plotting, we absolutely do not need to, but when we get to annotations, it would be useful. So I will run this command, and there it is. In order to show you how it looks like, I will just say SCA. This is a list. A list in Python looks like this. It starts with the braces, the value starts, and then it's separated by commas. So it has every value for short creating actions for every player in the same order that it is stored in the data frame. Okay. Now we are looking to create a scatter plot. Now to create a scatter plot, let me just check if we have imported. Okay, we have matplotlib.pyplot here. Just for my reference, I will also open my goalkeeper data because it's just for my reference. Okay. And yes, I would want this to, we'll come to fonts later. Okay. Okay. Let's get to plotting the data. And to plot data, it's quite simple. How do we say it? We'll say df, that's the name of our data frame. I have created these lists here. You can plot from these two. These would be required if you have to like do some kind of manipulation, like when we plot. Okay, we'll come to that. So to plot the data, we just need a simple command. It's called df dot plot dot scatter. Why don't we just go and look at it? There it is. Okay. So we'll just, now we have to plot a scatter plot. For that, we will just use a simple command. We will say plt dot scatter, and since we have two lists that we created, which we want on the x-axis and the y-axis, I will take short creating actions in the x-axis and the live passes on the short creating actions from live passes on the y-axis. It's just my preference. If you want to do, you can do it either way. So what we have to do is specify the name of these lists that we have created. So SCA is the first list. The first one that you mention as the argument will be the first list, and the second one that you mention as the argument will be the first one that you mention as the argument will be the x-axis. The second one that you mentioned would be the y-axis. Let's just go ahead and run this and see what we get. Of course, it's not that simple. Okay. Oh, there it is. We have got an x-axis and a y-axis, and we definitely have got the scatter plot that we wanted. But is this the end of it? Because you can see that my scatter plot right here that I have plotted above, oh wow, it looks something really just to say maybe it looks great, but this one looks pretty simplistic. So this is just a basic scatter plot. Now let's look at how we can make this pretty. Our job is done, but when we come to visualizations, information is one part and making it look pretty is quite another part. So there are few arguments you can give here. Let's just go to each of those arguments. Let's see if fixed size can be used here. I will just say fixed size. Let's just length 8 and breadth. Is this a valid argument? Let me see. You can run this in the same cell, you can run this in the next cell as well. Is this valid in plt.scatter? I'm not quite aware. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay, let it be in this way. So since this fixed size argument is not being valid, so what we do before that, we'll just say plt dot figure, and this will plot a figure, and in this figure you can specify the size of the figure that you need. I will say fixed size is equal to, and inside these parentheses you specify the one that I specified earlier, which is 10:8, and let's just see what happens. Oh wow, we managed to make it bigger. Great. But now when I see it, I see that it looks a square kind of thing, and I want a little more length. So what do? Just in this argument, you just put the length a little bit more. Maybe it is 10, make it 12. These are visualizations. You won't get the perfect argument in the first place. Have a look at it and adjust it according to your aesthetics. My aesthetics say that length, I always like the x-axis to be a little bigger. So when we plot like this is what we get. Okay. The next thing in scatter plots that we always like is to have 4 quadrants, and these quadrants will specify certain things. Like we have plotted short creating actions and against short creating actions of live passes. So what do we do here is, there are 4 quadrants in mathematics. You should know that. I will just put the cursor here. 1 is here, and then in an anti-clockwise way you take it 1, 2, 3 and 4. That's the basic 4 quadrants. So what you want to do is to classify players into these 4 quadrants, and each of them conveys a separate meaning. So let's just think about it. Okay, what do you want to... Okay, these are short creating actions against short creating actions of live passes. Somebody who's in the first quadrant has a high x value and a high y value. So that person is creating a lot of shots of live passes, and he is creating a lot of total shots as well. Somebody who's in the second quadrant has a less number of short creating actions, but at the same time he has a really high short creating actions of live passes. This type of player creates low, but his percentage of creation of live passes is really high. Somebody who's in the third quadrant, a third quadrant is a place you don't want to be in, because the short creating actions are low as well, and those of live passes are low as well. And when you get to the fourth quadrant, you have a really high amount of short creating actions, but very little of that comes of live passes. So you are most likely creating those chances of a set piece, a corner or a free kick, things like that. So these, and a data analyst or a data enthusiast or scientist won't look into all this, but a football fan loves to look into all this. And we are not data analysts. I am not, at least. I am a football fan, and I like to classify players into something I can imagine, put a category into the players, who's good, who's bad, things like that. Okay, so here If we draw a line horizontally and a line vertically, it will be quite easy to bifurcate it into 4 quadrants. So why don't we do that? We'll say PLT dot, I think edge line, PLT dot edge line, it should be. Let me just check that out. Okay, it's PLT dot ax edge line, and edge line means a horizontal line. So we need to specify a horizontal line would be intersecting the y-axis, like here. We need to specify where do we want this. So we can use some mathematics, maybe take the lowest and the biggest value of the list and then minus and then take an average. I would simply go with what I see in front of me because we're not that much bothered. So what I see here is 0 is 0, 20, 40, 50, 60, 80, 100. We have a maximum of 100 here, a minimum of 0 here. We'll just go with 50. So I will say y equals to 50. If I say y equal to 50, and let me try and plot it, what happens? Okay, there's a line. I don't want this blue. If I want to change the color of this line, I will just go and say should be color is equal to, I'll say red. And now we have the line in red. In a similar way, we want a vertical line. So it's a pretty easy guess what it would be for a vertical line. All these commands would be available in the internet. You just go and search how to draw a vertical line in a plot, how to draw a horizontal line into a plot. This command will fall right in front of you. You just need to know what to search. So it was ax h line. Now we will go ax v line, a vertical line. And a vertical line intersect the x-axis, so we will change that. Let the color be red. And where do we draw it in the x one? So here it starts from 0, here it goes up to 140 is the max value here that I can see. So let me plot it at 70, x is equal to 70. And when we do this, we will get the vertical line. But okay, so yeah, it should be pretty okay. So we have our 4 quadrants here. What next? Now I notice that these dots are pretty small. I want them to stand out a bit more. What to do? And here where we said scatter, you can have another argument that's called S, and S will define the, what does S define? Yeah, S define the size of the dots. And let's just look at what happens if I set it to 10 and run this. It's really small. It's got even smaller than what it was when in the default size. So 10 is now you have seen that 10 is this much. Try 100. Let's see what happens. Okay, those are pretty big sizes, and this works. You can maybe even, okay, this looks good for me. Let's say 800. What next in a scatter plot? This has no meaning for you unless you annotate each point. We'll come to that. Now there are, now let's say that you see that there's a lots of dots here, means a lots of players here, and these dots have overlapped each other so much that you cannot even see where the dots are or how much of a density there is. This all looks same to you because everywhere it is an opaque kind of an image. You cannot tell where most of the players lie. So for this we have an option as well. We will just add an argument here that's called alpha. Alpha is an argument which can take values ranging from 0 all the way to 1. 1 is what is plotted right now. If you don't set any value, alpha is already set to 1, which is a completely transparent block. But if you want the dot to be, sorry, the 1 means completely opaque dot. If you want it to be transparent, you can just, as you scale down from 1 towards 0, it's going to be a see-through dot. So let me just show you what happens when I set the alpha to 0.5. Now here you see that, look at this, you can see the difference between the dots here and the dots here, and like here and here there's still lots of dots in this region, so it's like plotted like what to say, it's completely opaque still even if you set the alpha down. But here you can see that the density is less, means there are less players here as compared to here. If we want a little bit more distinction, let's see what happens if I set alpha to 0.2. The thing is, yeah, when you set it to 0.2, the dots here would also get affected. It's completely on that. If you want, there is an option to set the alpha, like according to the values you can set alpha, but okay, let's just go ahead. Okay, for the purpose of our tutorial we will just keep it at 0.5. You can set the value of alpha differently for different quadrants. You just need to loop through that list and just make sure that when the values exceed this, that you set the alpha like that. Okay, should I try that? I'm just thinking, should I try that, or it will be a waste of time? Okay, we have a lot of things to cover, so let's just keep it at this. If we have time in the end, I will just show you how to do that as well. Okay, we have reached this much, and now my concern is I have written nothing in it. How do I write something? For writing something, it's pretty easy. You just have to say plt.text, I think. You say plt.text and you can write anything actually. Before writing, let's just say, now we notice that these annotations are not quite like the axis. First of all, we haven't labeled what these axes are. This graph has no meaning to somebody who's watching this. It's just the number of dots that's scattered. So the first thing is, let's go and just label these axes. So let's say plt.x label, label. Get the spelling right. Let me just check if this is the real command. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I will just go. Okay. What happened to my mouse? Okay. And in the x-axis we have used SCA. So don't be lazy. Type out completely, because you're creating a visualization that people would want to watch. Let's just say short creating actions in the x1, and you can go font size. I think font size is the argument. Okay, let's see the default size and then change it. And in a similar way, just do for y as well. plt.y label. Just add plt.y label, and here, since we don't want, so SCA of live passes, or let's say shorts created of live passes, and let's see what happens when we do this. So here you can see that it's written here, short creating actions and short creating actions of live passes. Before moving ahead, I would just want to show you that in the previous one we hadn't imported this MPL Soccer. It's a package, MPL Soccer. If I show you their website just quickly, MPL Soccer, and I would suggest you use this for your data visualizations wherever you would need it. It makes things quite easier. And how to install this? You just have to open your command line and type in pip install MPL Soccer, because what this package does is it makes a lot of things really easy, like this plotting a pitch in Python, and then there are these examples here. You can just read through these examples. A lot of things are done here, a lot of good examples, and when you move on and on with visualizations, you would love all these pizza charts, the basic codes for everything they have here. So you can, here the heat maps, the pass maps, Hexbin plots. So why I use MPL Soccer? I do use it for pitch wherever necessary. Our concern is not with pitch right now. Right now our concern is to get this font manager working. So I just copied the command. For the font manager to work, you just need to write from MPL Soccer import and font manager, F capital and M capital. Why we're doing this, I will just tell you in a minute. Before that, these are my preferred fonts, and I copy it from every one of my programs to run it. So okay, these are variable names: font normal, font italic, font underscore quad, font underscore bold. The purpose of having these many fonts is just to set a different font for everything. Like we are giving the credits, you put that in a different font. The font underscore bold is, I use the font underscore bold to give the heading of the scatter plot, and the font underscore annote is for annotations, like you have to annotate which player this dot is. For that I use this particular font. I use font quad is if you have to write something here, I do that in this font. I like to use different fonts for different things. You can use the same font for everything, and you can not use a font at all. It will set to the default font. But the thing is, yeah, as I said, it's just to make it pretty, look pretty. So how to use this? Since we have this X label here, we will change the font of this X label. Before that, let's see if font size works. Is equal to 20, comma, font size equals to 20. And you write font properties is equal to, just let me check that. And you write font properties, and the name you have given here, like whichever font you would be needing. So what should we take? We'll just take the normal one, font underscore normal dot prop, and I will add the same command below this. Let's just see what happens, if we get any errors, or will it run. Okay, so there is the error. Oh, did I not run this? Okay, I did not run this, I'm really sorry. So first let's run this, because if you don't run, the program does not know what font underscore normal or font underscore italic is. Let's just, and while it runs, I will also show you, like you can see the links here, right? https github.com google fonts blah 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 .tff. So you can get any font you search, just search where in any GitHub repository it's available or not, and just go to the TFF file and get the link here. I will just show you how to. Let me just follow this link. I will just copy this link and let's just follow. Accept this TFF.true. Okay. So this link I have followed here, it will appear in a Google search as well. So here we have some font. This is the link, and we go to any folder, let's say. So these are the font files, and we'll just go inside as you see a Chewy, and you see that Chewy-regular.tff. We need this the link of this TFF file. So you have the link of this TFF file here. This is the link that's copied there, like .tff. And after that we say $raw is equal to true, so that we don't get any HTML links or something. We need the raw font file. That's the basic of what it is. Let's just try and run this. If you're going to copy and paste, you don't really need to understand, but it's just when you know what it's for, it makes it better. So now you can see the size has increased. I increased the size, and the font property has increased as well. Let's just say that these 0 to 20, 40, these are also really small, and you want to change the fonts. So these are known as ticks in an Access. How to change tick fonts? I forgot the command, so I will just search it along with you. How to change tick font size in matplotlib. Let's see. There you go. And you will find it in here, like There it is, plt dot y text or x text. Okay, I'll just copy it from there and I will copy it here. plt dot y text, plt dot x text. Let's just set the font size of both to 20. Okay, and there you go, the size is increased. And if you want, you can set the font properties here as well. If you want, you can change the color of that as well. Both things can be done. But let's quickly move forward on what to do in a scatter plot. Okay. Okay, you would want, definitely you should be wanting to know how to get a text here. So plt.text is the command we use. And what we write in plt.text, kind of forgot the arguments. Let's quickly check the matplotlib documentation, what plt.text is supposed to take as values. It's got to be quite easy. Okay, these are the values, plt.matplotlib.pyplot. So see here it's written matplotlib.pyplot.text. Why I am using plt is because when we imported it in our last tutorial episode, we imported matplotlib.pyplot as plt, so you can directly use that as a shortcut. Okay, so these are the arguments, x, y, s, and font ticked. Okay, equals none. So x is the x location, y is the y location, s is the string, and then any further arguments that you have to take. Okay, so x, where do you want the font is the first thing. I want to label these quadrants. Let's just name one of these quadrants. Like, let's name the first quadrant here. So I want the font to start at, let's say this is 100 here, this is 80 here. Let's plot at x is equal to 90, and let's plot at y is equal to 90 as well. So x is 90, y is 90 as well. You got the idea how I did it, right? Like 80, 100, 90 would be somewhere here, 80, 100, 90 would be somewhere here. I want the font to go from here to here. And the third argument is your string, whatever you want to write. I will say, let's say what to write here. Okay, let's write high short live short creations. High okay, let's say high volume creator with high live pass percentage. Like, you should not ideally write this long a sentence, but it's just to show you what happens. So you can see that it's come here. I've said 9090, it will plot exactly at 9090. You can do another thing, you can actually change the alignment of this font, like horizontal align and vertical align can be set. How's that done? I kind of forgot. It should be right here somewhere. Okay, HA. You can use, okay, and in here as well you can increase the font size. Just say font size, go for 15, it will increase the font size. Now it's gone like here. So what do we do? I would love to break the line, like after you see where high is, and after that it goes out. So just say /n here, it will change the line for you. And we said 9090. The horizontal alignment is by default set to left. If I want to set it to center, like the center of this particular plot will be at 9090, we can try that too. So now what's happened is the center is at 9090. So whatever I plot, it will be It's like the central alignment in the Word file. 9090 is the center, and my font should be in line with that. So that's how it comes here. But this looks pretty bad, so let's just change it to default. And font properties, let's change this as well. Equals to, this time I won't go for font normal, I would just go for font underscore quad, because that I have dot prop. When you run this, there you go, you have a different kind of font. If you think this is kind of going over the dots, just reduce the X or Y, like it's covering 3 of my dots. I don't like that quite much. Keep the X there, remove the Y, let's bring the Y a little down. Let's say about at 80, I don't want my top performance to be blacked off. I want my, so let's say 80 here, and okay, now it's come down. What more do we need to do? Yeah, one last thing left, that is how to annotate. So this plot would have little to no meaning if you don't annotate the dots, like who is who. For that we will say plt.annotate, and you need to annotate every value. If you want to annotate, it's quite easy. You just have to say plt.annotate and you say it's going to be quite funny when you will see why. You have to give the x coordinates, you have to give the y coordinates, and you have to give what should be annotated. So that should be 3 lists. I just want to confirm it again. And let's confirm from here if that's not available. Okay. Okay, so text and xy, this is what you need to give. So the first argument is your text. What is your text? We saved the player list in a list called player. So our text is player. And why this would work is because you did not change the data frames order before saving all these lists. When you saved the data into all of these lists, the data frame was in a single order. Like it starts from max addends and go up all the way down. That's exactly how the short creating actions, that's exactly how the live passes, everything was saved into the lists. So this would work. So okay. We need to give x and y, right? And x is SCA, y is live. Just see what happens when I do this. Where's the plot? Goodness gracious me, what the hell? Okay, it did not run. Okay, now it would run. I made a little mistake perhaps where okay, let's just get our plot back in place. So we cannot pass a list. We cannot pass a list into the annotation. That's what the error came. So let's not pass the list. What we will do is we will go through each and every value in that list and pass each and every value. How to do that? So I think this is our first time looking at for loops. It's quite easy. You just say for I in range. Range is the up to starting from 0 up to how many times you want it to repeat itself. And length. So what is our length? Our length is player, or it can be like player is the number of players we have, or it can be SCAs, it can be live. Every one of them has the same length. So you can keep anything. I will say I in range length of player. End it with a colon and hit enter. It will give a slight indentation automatically, because during compilation, whatever is having this particular indent, it will be understood by Python that all of this having this kind of indent should be repeated by me. And now let me give plt.annotate. So here you are not passing a list, you are passing the first value. So when this loop runs for the first time, This is a loop. It starts from 0 and it will run how many times? It will run up to the length of the player. How many players you have in the list, like the player is here. It will start from 0. If you have 100 players, it will run 100 times. If you have 1000 players, it will run 1000 times. And to refer to a certain value in the list, you have to give it like this: the ith value of player. When it runs for the first time, I is 0, not 1, it's 0. The first value is 0. So the first value of player, and that is, in this case, it's max add-ins, because we saw in our data frame. If you have doubts, just see player 0. Who is player 0? It's max add-ins, right? Okay, and here you have to give x and y. What is our x coordinate? Short creating action is what we took on the x-axis, so the ith value, that is 0. And then we have, what do we have? We have named it live, right? The problem with this, what happens is, it will annotate right on that location, that spot. Like, okay, let me just show you what's funny about this. I will run this. Okay, it will take a little time, perhaps. Should be done. That's quite a long wait. That's quite a long wait. Okay, cannot help it, because Moni, whenever you edit, just go to whenever this finishes processing, because we do not want this long a wait. Okay, now look at this. What kind of a disaster is it? It has so many players that it's plotted each and every goddamn player. You cannot see a thing. Okay, so let's do one thing. For the purpose of our tutorial, we will limit this to the first quadrant. So I will put an if condition. If short creating action of I is greater than where we drew this line. Where did we draw this line? We draw it at 70. Is greater than 70. These kind of manipulations, please do on your own. And live, the ith value of live is greater than 70. What I did is, like, if the short creating action that we have got here for the particular player, it has to be over 70, and the short creating action of live passes, that also should be over 70. That's what we took here. And when we do this one, it will not annotate any other value. It will just annotate the values that the player values that satisfy both of these conditions. And here as well, put a colon, and when you enter, it will give you its automatic indentation, and keep that indentation. So now there you go. When you have both over 70, okay, I plotted both over 70. Actually, the y for the first quadrant is over 50. That's fine. So now you see here that we have plotted certain names like Sergio Canales, Karim Benzema, Bernardo Silva, Mohamed Salah, Thomas Muller, Bruno Fernandes, Dimitri Payet, and Vinicius Jr. So we have plotted is like SCAI and live I. What it does is, it is aligned to the left side, like it's a left alignment. It starts writing the name from where the spot begins, wherever the computer has the spot begins. So to change this, like if you want to bring it a little bit downwards or leftwards or rightwards, you can do that. How to do that? I will just show you that. So we see here that Dimitri Payet, okay, hit a comma, and then we see, what was it? Oh, H align, was it? HA. It was HA. Let's put is equal to center. Like we want a central alignment. Let's see what happens when I say HA is equal to center. Okay, now every one of them has a central alignment, but it's right on top of the dot. I don't want that. So what I should do is, if you want to move it to the top, which axis are you moving? Are you moving the x or are you moving the y? Obviously, you're moving the y-axis. You're moving it along the y-axis a little bit up. So since this is our y-axis, we are giving it a location where to annotate. Just shift this by 0.1 or 0.2. How do you know how much to shift? This is a shift of 20, 80 to 100. This is a shift of 20. So going by this, you want a shift of a little bit. Let's say 1. Let's see what happens. If I shift by 1, what happens? Oh wow, it went over the top. That's perfect. Now let's say I want to shift it to the left side completely. If I want to shift it to the left, I will alter this. And left means we are reducing the x-axis. So I will, let's say -1. Let's see what happens. And please alter this on your own. This is quite easy. But if I'm shifting to the left, I would just don't want a center. Maybe I want a right side alignment, like it ends HA right. Let's see. Okay, now I've shifted to the left and I will set HA right. So these dots, here we go. Perfect. Those are how you can annotate. What else can you do is, let's say I don't want to annotate anybody. I just want to annotate one player. How do you do that? If player I, let's see where Messi is here, equals to Lionel Messi. Don't take chances, because if the name in the database isn't exactly matching, it would not show you that. But I think this is the correct name, so there you go. This particular dot is Leo Messi. What else? You can change the font size here as well. Let's say 15. Okay, you got the bigger size, but we don't need it. I will just leave it there. Let's say font properties, how you can change this. So for properties, I have this font underscore annotate always. This is my favorite font for annotation. You might have a different one. That's not an issue. Just go to GitHub like I showed you, get the TFF and put the link inside this, but add this raw is equal to true, this question mark and raw is equal to true. You do not want the computer to mistake it for an HTML file or something. Let's run this. There we go. The font is changed now. This is a completely smaller font. And now maybe this font, you can increase the size a bit. Let's say font size equals 15. When you run this, there you go. If you are confused which dot it is, just use HA center. There we go. That's the dot. And okay, we have shown you this much. What else? If you are asking me how to plot only the outliers, I showed you the first condition, that you can limit the loop to only run on certain conditions. Like if you use SCAI is greater than 70 and live is the y-axis, I is greater than 70. This will give you the outliers of the first quadrant. Let's say I want the outliers in the second quadrant. So what do we do here? Just hit enter, go back to the alignment inside the loop. If SCAI greater than 70 and you want the outliers here. So let's limit these live passes to less than 50. Let's say I want these two. So let's say this x is 80, it's greater than 80. Don't make a mistake like this one I just did. And live I, the ith value of the live passes that we are trying to iterate through, is less than 50. Let's see what it plots. And let's just copy the same comment. Like we want to plot the player's name right underneath. Don't forget the colon. Run it. Oof, I should have made some kind of a mistake, but yeah, do not mind that one. Okay, there are quite a lot of players here, so maybe I should decrease a bit more. Let's say, let's decrease this to 40. Let's just say 40. Yeah, now we have, okay. You see a little thing here that the Sofiane Boufal and Lorenzo Pellegrini, they are kind of coming on top of each other. If you don't want one of them to come, just put this inside this a brace. Just give an AND condition, and you say players I not equal to, or you can even give a list of players, like you say give what's the name, Sofiane Boufal. Just get the spelling correct, Sofiane Boufal. If this is the player name, I don't want him to come. You won't use conditions like this. I used in, okay, not in. So only Pellegrini is left. You won't use conditions like this every time, but in certain cases you will be having to use them. Let's just make this a bit cleaner. X greater than 70, y greater than, yeah, just clean it up a bit. It was creating a lot of ruckus kind of. Okay. Now what do you want to do is perhaps give this a title. Don't you want to give this a title? Let's give this a title. What title do you give? Okay. So let's say I want to give a title obviously above this. So the x-axis I will be using, if you use it as 0, it will be left aligned with this. So okay, we can use 0, no issues. But y, it's 100 in this graph itself. We will say 20 will give you a gap of this much. I will say I want a little more. I will say 130, and I will change the title here. What's the title that we should give? Short SCAs versus SCA live. I'm using this quite quickly before we are running out of time. Let's pop, and we had the font underscore bold here. Let's try and shift the size to 30 as well. See what happens if you plot this. Okay, it's gone a bit more up. Let's, with 130, we can reduce the y-axis if that's the case. If it's too high still, try reducing it even more. Wherever you're comfortable, stop right there. Okay. If you want to plot the credits in a same way, you can do that as well. Just use blt.text. And if you want, like, I usually put the credits down here, so the x-axis would be 0. That's okay. The y-axis would go down, so it would go like probably -10. So let's say -10, and then let's just type in credits. I'm not giving the full credits here, and let's say font underscore italic dot prop. Font underscore italic I just took from here. Okay, just don't get confused. And let's reduce the font size. We don't need a high font size for credits. So here are your credits. Okay, it's kind of lapping over this axis. Reduce it even more. Let's get a gap of -50, see where it goes. Okay, too much. Bring it down to 25, see what happens. Okay, that's fine, and you can continue the whole line here. So yes, that's the basic of scatter plot. I'm sure you would have learned something, and thank you for tuning in. And if you have any doubts, we will be posting this in the group. Just you can ask there. You can refer to the internet. I encourage you to do that. Please refer to the internet. And if you still have any doubts, you are completely allowed to ping me personally. I will try to clear it. I am not an expert, but yes, I will try to clear it as well. This is the basic of scatter plots. In the next one, let us try and see how we can make this into a dark theme, and perhaps a little more with like the ones I plotted from StatsBomb, maybe something like that. So yes, thank you for tuning in. Keep watching, keep following. If you don't follow our group, please join the group in Facebook, and have a good day. Take care. Bye bye.